2022 was supposed to be a very big year for the DCEU, like 2023 is looking like it's going to be, as there were like 3 or 4 movies that were supposed to come out this year, but in the end they were all either pushed off to 2023 or cancelled entirely. That's Batgirl, except for Black Adam, which did actually come out in 2022. However, it wasn't that slow of a year for DC as a whole, as there were 7 movies in general that were released. 3 of them were theatrical, and 1 of them was also a 3D animated movie with a big budget, which is only the second time DC has ever done that after the Lego Batman movie. Alongside them is 4 straight-to-DVD animated movies, and all that put together is definitely enough to make a ranking video. The only one of those movies that I will not be talking about is a movie that I haven't seen, and I probably never will, that being DC Superhero Girls and Teen Titans Go! Mayhem in the Multiverse. It's not the incredibly long title that is pushing me off from watching it, it's just not something I will ever bother watching. It's clearly not made for me or my demographic, so if I were to watch it and then judge it comparing it to the rest of these movies, it wouldn't really mean anything, so I won't be watching that, I will not be talking about it, but there are still 6 movies to rank, so let's start with the worst and lead into the best. But before we begin, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and let's begin. Catwoman Hunted is a bit of an unusual movie. I think the choice to go with an anime-inspired art style didn't really pay off. It just didn't really fit the world they were trying to create. The story of the movie is pretty terrible though, like that's easily the worst part about it. It's all about Catwoman stealing something from Leviathan, and then getting roped into a mission to take down Leviathan alongside Batwoman, and then from there it's really just impossible to win fight after impossible to win fight, and of course Catwoman wins all of them, even though she's not particularly well trained and she has no powers. There is a bit of a mention that she is trained by Lady Shiva, so fine, I'll believe that she could defeat Cheshire, but not the fight where she and Batwoman together fight 4 demons, 3 Apocalypse Tech intergangers, and all the leaders and henchmen of Leviathan all on their own, and they win, and then they fight 52 ninjas together, and the ninjas are considered a joke. 2 people versus 52 skilled ninjas. How are you supposed to take the threats in this movie seriously? And then the Catwoman kills Solomon Grundy, and then she kills Cheetah, and it's like the scariest version of Cheetah I've ever seen in animation. Basically, this movie is just going from one impossible to win fight after the next, and Catwoman wins all of them. There's really no plot aside from that. There's no character beats other than Selina being seductive and Kate being attracted to her, and the suspension of disbelief you have to pull for this movie is honestly beyond what I'm capable of, so that's 0 for 2 for Catwoman movies, which for this one is a bit surprising because it's created by the same person who made Young Justice and The Spectacular Spider-Man, plus the Green Arrow short, which is really good. Basically, this is a bit surprising, and this is probably the worst thing that Greg Weisman, the creator of Young Justice, has ever made. Green Lantern Beware My Power is very disappointing, and unlike Catwoman Hunted, which I only really watched for this video, I was excited for this one, and I watched it as it came out, just because Green Lantern has been sidelined for too long in the live-action universe, but also in the animated world. We haven't gotten a Green Lantern movie in around a decade, and also the trailer looked pretty good, plus I like Jon Stewart a lot, but like I said, the movie was disappointing. I don't like the fact that they simplified the Green Lantern Corps to what it was before the emotional spectrum was introduced, which is disappointing because that's just about when the Green Lantern Corps lore started to get really interesting. Like Catwoman, you really have to suspend your disbelief for a lot of the fight scenes. I mean, the fact that a newbie Green Lantern like Jon Stewart could take on the same villains who defeated the entire Green Lantern Corps, and one Green Lantern who has like 10 Green Lantern rings, is a bit ridiculous. But beyond all of that, the biggest fault of this movie is honestly the fact that it's just poorly made, it's poorly put together. I mean, there's technical issues that are frankly embarrassing. These issues take the form of the sound design, as people often talk and say a sentence, and then there's this awkward pause before somebody says something else or something else happens, and it's both really distracting and just feels really amateurish, and like I said, a bit embarrassing. It is a problem in multiple of these Tomorrowverse movies, but it's easily the most egregious in this one. The movie honestly feels a bit unfinished and not fully finished editing, which, like I said, for the 3rd time now, it's very embarrassing. The animation is good and the movie definitely has some good visuals, but it's really hard to get past the sound design. DC League of Super Pets is probably the biggest budget animated DC movie of all time. The only other contender is the Lego Batman movie, which according to Google has $10 million less in its budget. The thing is, I don't think this movie looks as good as the Lego Batman movie in terms of its animation, probably because a lot of the budget had to go to The Rock and Kevin Hart, who I don't think really needed to be in this movie at all. However, I don't really have much to complain about in this movie. They did change some things from the comics or the crypto show that I watched when I was a kid, but would I really complain about that? Like, do I really care about the comic book accuracy of the Super Pets? Not really, so I don't really have much to complain about for this movie, but at the same time, I don't think I loved anything. It's fun, it's funny, but I didn't really love anything about the movie, but at the same time, I didn't really dislike anything either. I really dislike the concept of Black Adam as a movie. I mean, to separate Black Adam completely from Shazam, I think lowers the potential of both franchises, and then to turn him into a full-on hero, I know they call him an anti-hero, but in the DCU and in the MCU, basically all the modern superhero movies, superheroes kill people, so him killing people doesn't automatically turn him into an anti-hero. He's basically just a superhero with no gray areas to him, and it's such a Sony Spider-Man villain movie move to give him his own movie. I just do not like it. I also don't like The Rock in the role. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here by saying this yet again, but The Rock is not a very good actor. But also, I think the main problem here is his contracts, which prevents him from being allowed to lose a fight on screen, and for him to play or try to play a morally gray character who can never lose a fight, it makes it so much less interesting than it could have been. The movie is 100% saved in every single regard by the JSA. They were just dope, and without them, the DC League of Super Pets would probably be higher than Black Adam. All that being said, Black Adam is a relatively rewatchable movie. If you shut off your brain and look past its shortcomings, it is a fun movie to watch, and in fact, I did watch it a second time and liked it a lot more on a rewatch. It is a fun movie, but I just do not like the concept, and that's hard to get past. This movie would be nothing without the JSA, and would be better without The Rock. In sharp contrast to Black Adam, I actually really like the concept of this movie. It's no surprise, however. The Super Sons are really popular. Once they started coming out in like 2016 or 2017, I think DC quickly noticed that they struck gold, and while it took them a couple years, they did finally make the Battle of the Super Sons movie. I was excited for this movie until the trailer came out. Honestly, the art style or the animation style kind of put me off, and I didn't watch the movie until right now, basically for the purposes of this video. And yeah, it takes some getting used to, but once you do, the movie's actually pretty great. Even visually, it's really just like human beings that take some time to get used to visually, but the world, the background, the animation, and even the designs of non-humans like Starro, who looks sick, and Crypto, who looks better than he does in the League of Super Pets movie, looks so good that the movie feels close to being appropriate for cinemas. There are scenes where the background or the visuals of like the sky look fantastic. The movie is such a breath of fresh air for the animated DC movies as it's so well put together, which is in sharp contrast to both Green Lantern Beware My Power and Catwoman Hunted. It also uses its concept really well. Both John and Damian are very, very fun characters to watch, separately but also mainly as a duo. It's a really fun pairing that makes for a very fun movie, but also each individual character goes through developments with each other as a friendship, but also individually. Now, this movie obviously isn't perfect. There are elements that I don't love, and most of my problems come from the third act. Everything felt too easy for them. It felt like there's no reason they wouldn't be taken over by Starro. Starro kind of just let them not be taken over. And the final fight was like Superman and Batman fighting Superboy and Robin. We've seen that before. The same exact thing happened, albeit with a different Robin and a different Superboy in Young Justice, with Batman and Superman being taken over by Starro, and then Superboy and Robin switch partners in order to defeat them. We've seen that before. Again, different Superboy and different Robin. However, these things are kind of easy to look past just because even though we've seen it before, it's a lot of fun, and while everything feels a bit too easy for them, it is still a very fun movie with some great characters, some great visuals, and a lot of heart to it as well. So it's my favorite animated movie of the year from DC, and even better than the big budget Black Adam. The Batman is by far the best DC movie of the year, and it's also the best comic book movie of the year, and there isn't really all that much competition for either. The Batman gives us the definitive early days live-action Batman in a surprisingly good performance by Robert Pattinson, who prior to, say, the trailer being released, I would have never thought would have been Batman, although the trailer already convinced me. The Riddler is a fantastic villain in a movie largely inspired by The Long Halloween, with Batman and James Gordon work together to track down a killer, with the riddle motif being used to give Batman by far the most detective work we've ever seen in a live-action Batman movie. The Batman is easily the most well-produced and well-put-together DC movie of the year, and again, there isn't really much competition. The story, the writing, the acting, the fight choreography, the score, this version of Gotham City, and the villains are all relatively great. It's not a perfect movie, hence the 9 out of 10 and not 10 out of 10. I think it can be a bit slow at times, and there is some shoddy detective work, even if it is a lot more detective work than we've seen before. So it's definitely not perfect, but it's easily the best DC movie of the year, in my opinion. But what about your opinion? Let me know your list in the comments down below, and if you've even seen the Superhero Girls movie, then sure, add it on. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribbly dibble, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.